of Georgian Bay. Sorry, Phil.
Oh,
So the
okay.
mayor of
That's
Georgian
Coyer.
Bay, where the sea cans are, they did get a delegation with Braden
Braden
Smith.
Smith.
Are we live yet, Allison?
You have 1 minute.
Yep.
Here comes Coyer. You're good.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I would like to call the meeting to order. Disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof. Seeing none, if it happens throughout a meeting that you think you are, please call it. Delegations, please be advised that in accordance with the council's procedure bylaw, no decision will be made today on the delegations. The committee will do one of the following: refer the matter to staff for report, refer the matter to future budget deliberations, or take no actions. We'll start with C1, OPP, second quarter. Welcome, Mr. Yateman.
Morning,
Patty.
thank you.
Morning.
For the second quarter, that's April through June, we had 8 sexual assault occurrences in the township of Severn with a 50% clearance rate. 3 of those cleared by charge, and 1 cleared other, where the complainant or the victim did not wish to proceed. We had 10 assault occurrences with a 70% clearance rate. 7 were cleared by charge. 1 was insufficient evidence to proceed, and 2 were the victim declined to proceed. We had 34 domestic assault occurrences. Of the 34, 13 of those were criminal investigations. And out of those 13, 12 were cleared by charges. We had 1 abduction in that quarter. The abduction was a boyfriend and girlfriend situation, so it wasn't a stranger abduction. We had 1 robbery occurrence occurring at the business just across from your office there, the mall. We had 8 other crimes against persons. So these were threats or harassments. 2 were cleared by charge, 1 where the victim requested no further action. And then there's 1 left open for investigation, as there was others that didn't have insufficient evidence to proceed. We had 1 arson during this quarter, and it was involving a small fire just in one of the wooded areas. Fire department came and extinguished that. And the person was charged accordingly. We had 7 break and enter occurrences. 2 of those were cleared by charge. 2 are still open and under investigation, and the remaining 3 were insufficient evidence to proceed. We had 8 theft occurrences during the second quarter. Theft of boat motors, from construction tools from construction sites, another catalytic converter, actually a few catalytic converters, and then some jewelry. We had 18 theft under occurrences, which were primarily from inside motor vehicles. There was a gasoline drop-off, and there was some shoplifting as well. 1 of those was cleared by charge. 9 were insufficient evidence to proceed, and 5 are still open. And the remaining were where the victim declined to proceed. We had 14 fraud occurrences. There was some emergency scams, the grandparent scam, parent scam aspect. We had some online frauds, online being the person's credit cards are being used or accounts are being used. And we had 1 transportation scam where a person was refusing to pay cab fare, and that was cleared by charge. We had 7 mischief occurrences in this quarter, primarily towards vehicles and abandoned properties, but out of those 7, 6 were insufficient evidence to proceed, and 1, the victim complainant declined to lay charges. We had 1 possession of drug offenses during that period of time, and it was cleared by charge. During the second quarter as well, we issued 69 provincial offense notices on Severn Township roadways. We conducted 3 focus patrols, which resulted in a significant amount of hours and patrols in the areas of Division Road between Highway and Utah for April, Highway 12 between the 400 and Moonstown Road, and Highway 11 between Huronia and Coopers Falls Road. We conducted 10 ride occurrences during that time, 5 in the month of April, and 6 in the month of April, 2 in the month of May, and 2 in the month of June. Happy to report there was no fatal motor vehicle collisions on township roadways. However, there was 1 motor vehicle fatal on Highway 12 in Severn Township during that quarter. And that concludes my report, barring any questions.
Thank you. Okay. Member Burkett?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Inspector Yateman. Thank you for the report. I'm just curious, we now have an old truck haul route on Division Road from Burnside to Price's Corners, and I'm sure you don't have a record of if you've given any infractions or how well is that going? Like, just curious.
So Burnside to Price's Corners, you're talking
in front of the Marchmount School. We've got no truck
on Division Road.
Correct.
So on Division Road, we had during this time we had 5 traffic complaints come in during that time, but mainly all 5 of them came in through your office. Citizens don't appear to be calling. I did not gather the analysis in terms of what enforcement has occurred in that specific area. But during those 5 times, we did set up traffic enforcement or additional patrols in those areas.
Thank you. So supplementary through you, Madam Chair, if I may, I'm curious, council today may be looking at a couple other roads because what's happening is they're now taking some of our, like Foxmead, and I forget the other road that they're using. Are we, like, do you have the manpower if council decides to make them no truck haul routes as well? Is that going to be something you could look at for the other 2 roads that we're having a problem with?
For directed enforcement, absolutely. If we can add that to one of our focus patrols. We can assign an officer in that area during specific peak times. As we know, the trucking routes are heavier at certain times of day than others. So we could look at all of that for you. However, I would say, obviously, if there was a call for service or emergent call for service, we would have to pull the officer away from there. But it is something that we could definitely look at in the future for sure.
Thank you very much.
And just on haul routes, they're going in through Warminster and taking town line to shortcut it across there too. I've had calls on that. They're just whatever they can get the fastest way, they're doing it. Member Taylor.
Thanks again, Inspector Yateman, for coming today. But I have a question if you could comment on photo radar, pros and cons, like things like can violations be contested? Can demerit points be charged? What's your experience with this? I think I read something you'd made comments to another municipality. I'm just curious what you think of photo radar.
So photo radar is not an OPP run program, but it is being utilized, I believe, in about 10 jurisdictions across Ontario right now. I could share with you the website where you could research and get all of the information you're looking for. I believe it's a fantastic tool. I think any tool that can deter drivers, to ensure they're following the rules of the road is very important. I believe, and you'll get more information on the website, that it's really no different than an officer issuing a ticket. I believe actually we have to review the data before the tickets are issued. And then the tickets are issued and the person would have the same options as they would at the side of the road. They could pay the ticket by sending in the appropriate amount through the mail. They could attend to pay. They could request a court date to argue the ticket or have another reason to attend court. So the options are there. And like I said, it is being used in, I want to say 10 different municipal jurisdictions. So I can share that information via email at the conclusion of this, if that is suitable.
Yeah, that's great. If I could just, if you could send that to our clerk, Allison, and then she could forward it to us. And it's speeding's everywhere, and it's showing up on a few items further on in the agenda as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Member Cox and then Member Brennan.
Through the chair to Inspector Yateman. When you were talking about the haul routes and a time when the truck traffic will be worse, is that something that the black box can be used for to give you those times, or do you already have sort of an idea of when they would be?
The black box would be very useful because I think the black box also identifies the size of the vehicle.
Yeah, I thought it did. Yeah. Okay, because we have one. I just wondered if we could get that information. It might help you.
It would be very useful. I'm even thinking of other things, and I don't know even if this is possible, but a lot of the truckers use GPS, right? And I know this would be this wouldn't be an overnight solution, but is there an opportunity to work with some of the GPS mapping places that if a truck identifies itself as a truck, then the trucking routes would pop up on the map, so that because instead of getting maybe the shortest or the quickest route, they would get the trucking route on the map to keep them in compliance as well. And that could be something that could be looked at through, Google Maps or Waze or the popular mapping databases. Just a suggestion or potential option.
No, that's a good idea, because we do have haul routes, and so they could show up that this is our haul route, not you don't go on those other ones. And back to the photo radar, I'm thinking that I think there's a cost factor with it, but I was kind of hoping maybe our county councillors might approach Simcoe County. If the county did it for all the municipalities and they all could work together, our costs would be much less, but we'd have a consistent enforcement across the county. So that might be something we could look into.
And I apologize because there is limitations on where these can be placed. They have to be placed in community safety zones or school zones. Okay. But you do have those zones in your municipality, right? So those are definitely options.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Member Brennan.
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor, to Mr. Yateman. I just want to, I'm new at this game here. I just want to clarify my understanding here. There was a release by the Ontario government on administrative penalties for vehicle-based contraventions, which is different, as I understand it, from the radar schemes that you are talking about now. And I'm wondering if you have any comment on that approach, which would be a municipal approach as opposed to OPP, and its potential effectiveness or even its use prior to this update in other municipalities.
And I apologize, Councillor. You lost me at the beginning in terms of the where that came from. So could you repeat that?
Yeah, this is a document I have here that is produced by the Ministry of Transportation, Administrative Penalties Guidance Document. And it was released July 15th of this year. So that may be something you haven't got to in your reading pile yet. it looks interesting. It would have to have some cost benefit analysis, but I was just wondering if you might have some comment on it. But if you haven't had a chance to review it, that's fine. Perhaps we could talk about this at a future meeting.
Maybe Allison could take that information also. And Allison?
Thank you. If council as a whole provides direction to staff to look into that, we can. AMPs are a municipal tool that have been given to municipalities. Most places that operate them are such like the City of London, City of Kingston, the larger cities. The Township of Ramera is toying with bits of it, but not the whole of what it can do. It is extremely administrative heavy on the municipal staff side to be able to run and administer, because it's basically running the court system in-house.
Would that not be cost benefit though? I mean, you charge.
We'd have to look at if it is something long-term the council would like to look into. We would do a report and bring it back. It would probably not be, I'll save some future comments, but there's a lot of staff administration that's required us to run an AMP process. But if council as a whole were to provide direction, then staff would look into that. But
so after Mr. Yateman goes, and do we get a motion on that, or what do you do? I think it would be consensus of council. I don't know. Straw poll vote. Just put your hand up if you want, if you think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, and specifically a cost benefit. But I just want to note from the material that I have read, there are different ways to approach this that could change the balance of cost effectiveness. And it gets back to, do we share costs with adjacent municipalities or with the upper tier committee? Just so in asking for you to do this, it's just, there's so many questions when you read this document as to, like what, there's different ways you can approach it, which would completely change the balance of the cost benefit analysis. That's all I'm suggesting.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Inspector Member Taylor?
Yeah, just to follow up to Councillor Brennan, maybe we can have that report put on a future meeting for staff to have a look at it, and council or committee.
Allison?
I would suggest that if it's something that council would look at, based on the fact that would come through me, it's probably not going to come till almost the start of the new council term, because there's just lack of time to research that properly and ensure that all the pieces are there for council to have a properly balanced report. And any future implication would definitely have, I'm going to tell you, would have a pretty good budget implication at the front end to put something like that in place. So, but those details would come in as part of the report.
I think that sounds fair. Member Brennan?
Yeah, just a supplementary. I would prefer we approach this slowly and then rush it. I think this could work if it's done properly, but rushing into it could just put the whole, just screw the whole thing up as far as I'm concerned. So I think we should take our time, and I support Allison in the idea of doing that. Let's do this. And plus, we're so close to having a new council. It's probably a decision that should be made at that time anyway, in my view.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So Inspector Yateman, I have a question for you. There was a half-ton truck rear-ended on Wayneman around the end of May. This farmer also farms 2 farms there, and his tractors, they're going back and forth. They don't even use that gateway anymore. Do you have, I don't know, are there any ideas at all how to slow these people down? It's in every township, it's on every road. I don't know what we can do. Like, of all the complaints we receive, speeding on our roads are the most.
I think if I knew that answer right now, I would, solve a lot of problems right across the entire province, if not the entire country. Everyone appears to be in a hurry. Speed limits are becoming, it's one of those that just people are, for whatever reason, speeding, and we've seen a couple of serious collisions here in our jurisdiction in the last short little while that have been a result of some speed maybe not necessarily even going over the speed limit, but speed for the conditions of the roadway at that time. Enforcement is one aspect of it, but I do think there's a lot of education work and a lot of other avenues. And I know your township, and I thank your township for being so progressive with different outside the box thinking and speed measuring or calming measures. And I think we need to continue down that road. This will not be solved overnight, unfortunately. But it is something that levels of enforcement are required, but also levels of education and awareness, and then other speed calming measures are included. So the black cats are going to be very important. The signage is going to be very important. I know you've done other measures, where speed limits go down, where we've placed things on the roadway to just, have another sort of visual cue for a person to slow down. And I think all of those are important, but when used too much or too frequently, they become lost as well. So this is a long-standing discussion, not only here, but in many areas of this province.
It amazes me that those calming, I call them wooden police officers, are in the middle of the road that are already run over. It's like, how can you run over something like that? And they're right in safety zones. Anyway, it's then when we get the call about speeding, then it's, well, why can't you get an officer out on our road? Well, we do our best. And anyway, thank you, Inspector Yateman, for the update and for taking our questions today.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Whoops. Okay. We'll move on to consent agenda. Were there any pulled, Allison?
Madam Chair, I believe we have a motion at the end of the delegation.
Oh, okay. We have a motion then.
Certainly. So the motion reads that the second OPP quarter update from Inspector Yateman be received for information. The staff report back regarding administrative monetary penalty AMP program.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Member Taylor, seconded by Member Brennan. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, consent agenda. Member Taylor.
I'd like to ask that D 2.4 be pulled for new business.
Member Cox.
Oh, I believe you're muted, Member Cox.
Sorry, thanks, Member Taylor. And I'd also like 2.3, please.
Are there any other ones pulled, Allison?
Not that I've been made aware of.
Okay. So we'll go on to adoption of a regular agenda.
Okay, so the motion reads that the agenda be adopted, including consent items, with the exception of items number D 2.3 and D 2.4.
Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Member Taylor, second by Member Cox. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you.
Okay. So reports from officials for direction, planning F11. Andrea? Is that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, my camera button was delayed there. I apologize.
Okay.
We also have Mr. Wes Crown here today from MHBC as well on this matter. So I'll just turn it over to Wes, and I'm here to assist as well where needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, Madam Chair. Good to be with you this morning. Mr. Robinson sends his regrets. I think he would rather be here than at the OLT, but he's tied up at an OLT hearing this morning. You do have the report P22031, which is item F11, as the chair indicated on your agenda. It's pages 33 to 56. And it's with respect to the extension of the draft plan approval for the Area 3 subdivision. While it's an older plan, it remains in full conformity with the municipality's official plan and with the municipality's zoning bylaw. The new owner, Live Communities, who own this site and the adjacent Inch Farm development in the city of Orillia, have been working diligently since their acquisition of the properties with both Severn, Orillia, MTO on satisfying their conditions of draft approval, but they've found that they all need some additional time to do that. Staff support and recommend the extension and the update and modernization of the conditions of draft approval for the period of 3 years that are recommended. And there are 3 recommendations in the staff report for committee's consideration. Lots of history, of course, Madam Chair, on this file, and either Andrea or I can answer any questions that the committee has. But I'll turn it back over to you.
Will there be any questions? Okay, then do you want to add anything, Andrea?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, we did receive one minor editorial comment from the MTO with respect to the revised conditions. They request that the very last bullet in the revised conditions provided as attachment 3 to the report be deleted. It just states that they will be reviewing the traffic impact study and the functional servicing and stormwater management report. That was included in error. That's not typically a draft plan condition. That's just a comment that they'll be reviewing the studies. So that would be the only comment I wish to add at this time. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions or? Okay, Allison.
Thank you. So the motion reads that planning report number P22-031 dated August 24th, 2022, with respect to the draft plan of subdivision for 4398 and 4470 Burnside Line, Area 3, file number 43T-99006 be received, and that the Township of Severn endorse a 3-year extension of the draft plan of subdivision approval, file number 43T-99006, which is scheduled to lapse on September 22nd, 2022, together with amended draft plan conditions, and further that the County of Simcoe and the OLT be advised of the Township's position in writing.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Member McIntyre, second by Member Stevens. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Wes. We'll move on to F21 Public Works. Quarry Road. Morning,
Good
Derek.
morning. Thank you for the introduction and through the chair. So this report is actually prepared by our Public Works technician, and it summarizes the results of the speed limit review study, which in this particular case has resulted in a recommendation for no change and the posting of 80 kilometers per hour. The planning technician is available for any questions, so feel free to discuss.
Member Taylor.
Yeah, through the chair to, is Alex on the line there?
I haven't seen him join.
I mean, just have a look here.
I haven't seen him join, Derek.
Yeah, I don't mind asking you either, Derek.
Certainly, go ahead.
So questions and comments. Has there been any feedback from the quarry?
Through the chair, so we actually did meet with the quarry on a separate item, and we discussed speed. They really haven't sort of received additional complaints at the quarry office, the dispatch office. We do advise often when people are, calling into our office and asking for, truck-related concerns. They are somewhat held responsible to manage their fleet and specifically contracted hauls from the quarry themselves. But in the last little while, they haven't received any from the public. And that was the last feedback we had probably back in July.
So through the chair, a supplemental, did you tell them that we're having complaints?
Through the chair, absolutely. Yeah, we discussed it as around that same time we were setting up for data collection as well.
Okay. And then through the chair, a question or a comment I've got. I believe that the Black Cat confirms what the residents are saying. If 85th percentile speed is 96, this would be 3 demerit points. If it's 16 kilometers over, it's pointed out that this is a haul route. And just by reading that, it's almost saying, well, it's a haul route. It's a racetrack. And to me, majority of the trucks, majority of the vehicles on that road are heavy dump trucks and trailers. And I think it validates what the pedestrians are saying, that they're afraid to walk on the road because vehicles are speeding. And I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be 60 from Fell Line down to North River Drive.
So through the chair, just to respond to two of the primary items in that. So one is we're not necessarily saying that there's not a speeding concern here. The Black Cat radar device definitely shows that we have above tolerable levels of speeding beyond even the 80 posted speed limit. And with that, we've deployed our traffic calming device. One of them's a trailer mounted photo radar feedback sign. And also we had issued all of the data back to the Ontario Provincial Police for additional enforcement. So just because the speed limit study doesn't recommend a lower posted speed limit, it can certainly identify where we're having speeding concerns and where we need traffic calming and enforcement. The purpose of the study is really to make sure that we've posted an adequate speed limit. So posting a speed limit that's too low for the road's environment. If you've been on Coyer Road, it acts and it functions as an arterial or even a collector roadway between the County Road 17 and the Highway 400 series highway. And in that road class and that function and the width and the geometry, that's all set up as a county road. Posting a speed limit less than 80 will create additional enforcement issues because just because it's posted 80 doesn't mean people will do 80 or 60 or 50 or 40 for that matter. So it's a combination of two. We firmly believe that under the guidelines we have and the data that we've captured, 80 kilometers is the appropriate speed limit for the road. But we do have a speeding concern here where we will look for traffic calming and enforcement to control the excess speed.
Member Taylor?
Yeah, through the chair to Derek again, based on what I've seen in other places where we drop, say, from 80 to 60, so if in 80 they're doing 90, then in 60 they're doing 70, then isn't that better? Like I don't really see the detriment in going slow.
Through the chair, the data and actually a number of publications throughout the province and Canada suggest that posting a lower speed limit or an inappropriately low speed limit does not actually affect the operating speed of your average driver. It just does create additional enforcement concerns and even higher levels of violation, if you will.
Alex, do you have anything to add to this?
And through the chair, maybe I can introduce Alex.
Sure, you go ahead, Derek.
So Alex is our Public Works technician, and Alex is probably his first Corporate Services Committee meeting and one of his first reports. So just want to bring him online here. I don't know if he can share his screen and see his face.
Yeah, we've got him, Derek.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, Alex, welcome.
Morning.
If you'd like to share any of that information or something more, please do so.
Yeah, so I caught some of what Derek said there, just joined onto the meeting. So yeah, with the posted speed limit at 80 there, we found with the 85th was at 96. Again, we understand that, 16 kilometers an hour over the speed limit. So for about 2 weeks after we did the traffic study, we had the radar trailer out there just to do some traffic calming, try and slow down some of the traffic on Coyer Road. We also went ahead and sent off the details of our report and the actual raw data file from the data capture to the OPP for enforcement. And as Derek was saying there, just I don't necessarily know that dropping the speed limit to 60 would solve our issues. If anything, like he mentioned, it could create more enforcement issues just because the way Coyer Road operates too, like it's a nice wide road, wide shoulders. The alignment of the road is very well, so it just naturally feels like a road that drivers are going to travel at around that speed limit, 80 kilometers an hour. And yeah, unfortunately, we as the township can't do anything to enforce the speed the drivers are driving at, besides putting out traffic calming devices like we have. So as for dropping the speed, yes, I I believe, again, based off that decision matrix we did through Transportation Association of Canada recommending the speed to be at 80, and what we found through our study, and it just overall being a haul route. That's another thing. In our 2017 roads needs study, there's kind of like a decision chart for posted speed limits for certain types of roads, and haul routes are recommended at 80. Their main purpose is to move goods from one area to another. So, yeah, in conclusion, we recognize that there's a speeding concern there. We've done our part with the passing the information off to the OPP, and I just believe that if we drop the speed limit lower, we'll kind of be in the same situation with just even higher enforcement issues. I believe the travel speed will kind of remain around what it is now, and you'll just have an even higher traveled speed, even higher over the posted speed limit. So,
so Alex, if you can, has the black cat been out there or just the radar one?
The black cat's been out there, so that's what we use to actually collect the traffic data.
Okay, have you shared that data with the quarry? Have you physically said, here's the data, and there's the amount of trucks that are speeding?
Yeah, so the quarry might not necessarily have the actual software to look at that data file. So we use something called StarNext to process any of the data we get from the black cat.
Yeah.
So the quarry has, like, I was in contact with the quarry after we did the study, just to kind of let them know some of the basic information of what the 85th traveled speed was, and that we had speeding concern in the area. So again, they can't necessarily see the raw data from the data collection we did with the black cat. But
is there not a printout, Derek, Alec, that does it not give you a printout, like paper printout that you could take to them?
I could, yeah, just like with the amount of
trucks.
It exports the data like into an Excel sheet. So depending on how many vehicles we picked up during that week, there might be a couple thousand vehicles that pass the black cat radar.
Yeah.
So we certainly could print off the raw data and provide that to them, so they kind of have an idea of, how many vehicles are traveling at X speed. But on top of that, I think that that doesn't necessarily speak to who the quarry is concerned about. We'd have to look at that data a little bit closer, but because the overall speed takes into account everyone that was on the road. It wasn't just the aggregate trucks, right?
Yeah, but it shows the size of the trucks.
Yes.
What I'm saying, and Derek has his hand up, so maybe
we'll
let him take over there.
Yeah, through the chair, if I can, and Alex is very well versed in the data collection and capture and processing. We'll certainly send off a quick report to the quarry that just summarizes our findings at best. But I think the heart of it is we're going to continue with traffic calming. We're going to continue pressing some enforcement. And we do work with all operators, every quarry we have, with Nelson's aggregates, we're in constant conversation with, same with Lafarge up here. So that's what I think we'll do is we'll share a quick report with them and see if we can get some compliance or at least a little bit lower operating speeds.
Thank you. Member Burkett and then Member Cox.
Thank you, through Madam Chair, to Mr. Burke. Does the quarry on Coyer Road have the same type of tools that Walker's has and Nelson's has with an unmarked police or vehicle with a radar? That's
through the chair. Question. Through the chair, no, I don't believe they do. And certainly when we share our results of our study, we can also share some of the tactics that other quarries have used to control, their operators' speeds. And actually even just including some memorandums, right? Sending out memorandums to the various truckers on a regular basis reminds operator owners that their drivers are to, stay within the posted speed limits. And, even a brief mention that it can affect their CVOR gets a lot of owner operators within compliance quickly.
So supplementary through you, Madam Chair, if I may, to Derek, as well as I do, at the Walker's Quarry, they will refuse to load trucks, right? So can the same sort of message, and I know that, and I haven't got a number for the quarry that's out there, but can the same sort of message be be conveyed that, you know, like we need to share the road. There's cyclists that are out riding the roads. There's walkers that are out riding the road, and the trucks have to be conscious of this. The other thing that I wanted to ask you as well is the calming measures that you were going to implement. What are they? Because this is the first I've heard of a calming measure for any of the quarry roads. So now I'm interested.
Yep. So through the chair, we really have a limited toolbox, but it includes things like the radar sign. So it's a feedback sign, trailer mounted. We own 2 of them. We purchased 2 additional locations, if you will, that are semi-permanent, and they just give a driver a quick feedback about how fast they're going. As Mr. Yateman mentioned, that they do lose effectiveness quickly. So we move that trailer around on almost a 2-weekly basis to try to get the maximum effectiveness. Other things we can do is additional signage, you know, that sort of thing. And traffic calming is a wide umbrella of tools. So even just sending correspondence from staff to operators, reminding them of the posted speed limits and the penalties is a form of traffic calming, because it may encourage a lower operating speed.
Okay, Member Cox, and then I'm back to Member Taylor.
Member Burkett asked my question, and thank you very much. Mr. Burke answered it. Thank you.
Great. Member Taylor.
Yeah, just through the chair, and I'll wrap it up. Well, like one thing that the township can do is take priority over that at all costs. But I'm willing to see if the calming devices will work. I saw the sign out there, and I think we should be proactive here and do what we can to slow down, because besides the residents living on there, that's an active bike route to Port Severn, and we have to share the road there. And I think further to what the mayor was saying there, let the quarry know that we're serious about it, and take notes of what we did with walkers, and get this back on the track, and hopefully we'll see a result there, and our residents and cyclists shouldn't be afraid and walking and driving on the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Member McIntyre.
Through the chair to Derek. I've raised this question before. I know the MTO has a specific guideline on it, but my question is always, if it's 60 or it's 80, why can't we make it 70? I mean, if you posted a 70 sign there, they'll go 85, 84. If we're going to be posted at 80, they'll go 96. I just wonder why can't be to Councillor Taylor's point, he was looking for 60, and I know that through your office, Derek and Alex, that you'd think that may not be the best move. However, I feel 70 might have some kind of benefit. So just putting it out there. I've done it before. I've asked for 70 before, maybe in Marchmount or whatever, but it's just a question maybe that Mr. Burke can answer for me. Thank you.
So through the chair, absolutely. The MCO does have a guide that says increments of 10. So 70 is in the category. We actually have one posted 70 in all of Severn. It's on Carleon Line. And it didn't come up as the recommendation from the guidelines that we have from Transportation Association of Canada. And I still think it's the same effect. You know, if our operating speed and the appearance of the road is 80, most people are going to continue with that, if not higher operating speed. Even a 70 is going to create another 10 kilometers worth of additional enforcement infraction. I think it's best that we look at the few traffic calming tools that we have, monitor the situation, and try to encourage some lower operating speeds in and around the 80 mark, as that's appropriate for the roadway.
Okay, is Allison here? Can we have a motion, Allison?
Yep. Motion reads that Public Works Report number W22-026 dated August 24th, 2022 with respect to a speed limit review Coyer Road be received, and further that the posted speed limit on Coyer Road remain at 80 kilometers an hour.
Mover and a seconder. Oh, Member Taylor.
I wonder if I could make an amendment to that we can also review this with the new council in the fall to see if there's any effect with the calming measures that we put in place there, and let's make 2 or 3 months away. And
Allison, could you please add that?
If
in some form, short
that's
form?
Okay.
So I've worded it just an additional paragraph that the posted speed limit be reviewed with the new council following further traffic calming measures, if that works.
That Member Taylor?
Yep.
Okay, I need a mover and a second, please. Moved by Member Taylor, seconded by Member Brennan. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, we've got a new one here now. Public Works speed limit review on Division Road. Derek.
Thank you, through the chair. And actually very similar conversation to the previous report. Actually having the resources in our technician here at the Public Works Department has got through some of the backlog studies that we were looking to do. So this one here is from Utah down to Burnside line. It's a nice long stretch with virtually no entrances at all. Actually we find our operating speed in here to be quite adequate. It doesn't result in any real excess over the posted 80. And we did note one change that didn't reflect our bylaw exactly right. And it was when the 80 sign was on the other side of Utah line. So we have rectified that to create basically the intersection being of a 60 and following section being of an 80. And so at this time, staff recommend that the posted speed limit just remain at 80. And we actually don't even have any real enforcement concerns here as well.
Any questions on that one? Okay, seeing none. Allison?
Certainly. Motion reads that Public Works Report number W22-027 dated August 24th, 2022, with respect to a speed limit review, Division Road West, be received, and further that the posted speed limit on this section of Division Road West remain at 80 kilometers an hour.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Member Cox, second by Member Stevenson. All in favor? And that's carried. P23, Public Works, Condominium Water Services. Derek.
Thank you, through the chair. So this report actually just recommends that we renew for 2 individual periods of our condominium-based water, water system operations. And so what we have here is the 2 condominiums are operated or from the township, but for the condominium corporation. And it's fairly non-standard. I was discussing with the Ministry of Natural Resources inspector, and he mentioned that we have none other than ours in the county of Simcoe and just a few in the province. What is a little more typical is the condominium corporation, all of the assets are owned in a common element, including the water system, and is operated by a third party, let's say Aqua or some other certified operators. And so we wish to sort of get out of the service. It is a draw on our existing resources. It may free up some additional time as we take on new subdivisions and new water systems and things like that for our existing staff. And this gives them enough time to find a certified operator. Both agreements are currently in a expired condition.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that? Member Taylor.
I have a question to the chair, to Derek. So Derek, what's the difference between this and water that goes into Washago into Ramera?
So through the chair, actually not a lot of difference other than, so the Ramera itself is a water operator, has a drinking water license for their internal systems, and we only supply. So there's a fairly large meter at the boundary between Ramera and us, and an agreement, and we're on the supply side. They're on the operations side. What's different about this is we're on the supply side, and through this agreement are on the operations side.
Member Taylor?
And just one last question to the chair. So Derek, do they get a 1 meter that measures the whole development, and then it's divvied up amongst each owner then? Is that how both condo units work then? Is that?
Through the chair, so that could have been an option. We actually opted to do individual metering, but no different than a big high rise. You can have 1 main meter that does the entire thing, and the system owner charges back individual units. In both West Shore and in Riverwalk, we have individual meters and we bill individual customers. And that's just a choice that we made back in those days when we did the condominium corp.
Member Taylor?
And just through the chair, one last one. So then the billing will still be the same. Is that correct? Just that they have to test their own water. Is that?
Through the chair, exactly right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, Allison, do we have a motion, please?
Thank you. The motion reads that Public Works Report number W22-028 dated August 24th, 2022 with respect to condominium water service operations be received. And further that the proposed agreement renewal be sent to Simcoe Vacant Land Corporation number 391 West Shore Beach Club for consideration and approval. And further that the proposed agreement renewal be sent to Simcoe Common Elements Corporation 349 Riverwalk Estates for consideration and approval. And further that staff provide written notice of the intent to discontinue service at the end of term for both agreements.
Thank you. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Member Taylor, second by Member Cox. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, F24 Public Works automatic vehicle location. Derek, it's all about you.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I'll be quick. Thank you through the chair. So this report, actually just to start it off, is we do have delegated authority on these types of purchases in a lame duck position. And so we are actually proceeding with the acquisition of the ABL, but we thought we'd report to council. ABL is basically the GPS on the trucks. And the GPS that we have now is a TurboNet product provided by Motorola. It's served us very well over the last, since 2015-ish. And but unfortunately, the software is no longer supported, and the devices themselves aren't able to add new fleet to the list. And so we sort of urgently need to replace the AVL before the upcoming winter control season. And the reason I say that is one of its primary function is to help us in claims defense, specifically related to if we were there and when we were there last plowing, that kind of thing. So basically what we're hoping for is anything that moves, that's a Township of Severn asset, will have a GPS coordinate to it, so we know where all our stuff is all the time.
That sounds great. Any questions? Okay, Allison, you're up again.
Motion reads that Public Works Report number W22-029 dated August 24th, 2022 with respect to automated vehicle location system be received, and further that replacement of the automatic vehicle location system be included as a mid-year addition to the 2022 capital plan, and further that the additional $47,000 required to complete the work have been approved by the CAO under lame duck provisions within delegated authority bylaw 2022-42 and reported to council as required, and further that the deficiency be funded from the fleet replacement reserve.
Thank you. A mover and seconder, please. Moved by Member Brennan, seconded by Member Taylor. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, F25 Public Works.
And thank you through the chair. So this is report number 2, I believe, on this particular item. And what we've done is at request of committee, we performed an additional test on the water meter that was in question there at 12 John Street, resulting in a bill of just over $5,000 for 1 quarter. We got the results back, and the results came in much similar to the first time. That the water meter, generally speaking, is accurate within a decimal percent of accuracy, well meeting the AWWA standards for water meters. And so staff are recommending that the bill, be issued without amendment or revision or reduction. In addition to that, we feel that it's important to have transparency as a local government and to provide, options to make sure our utility billing is accurate. So we are requesting that any interest that's occurred to date since the disputed charges, be waived, and that we can the homeowner should contact us rather for the payment arrangements, which we do have a couple options through finance.
Okay. Any questions? Member Cox.
Yeah, my first question is the paragraph that talks about the calculations by comparing water produced and delivered.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
So, certainly, yeah. So through the chair, the homeowner just asked for some baseline data on, they thought if such a large consumption happened that we would see it through our meters, because we meter, the outbound water and the inbound water for utility billing purposes and what we produce and send out to the distribution system. And when we did that little exercise, which was quite useful, actually, we found that we do have some water loss in and around 24 to 29%. But in the period of question, that result did not indicate that we, charged more than what we produced, which is the claim, right? The claim is that 940 some odd cubic meters of water didn't pass through that meter, and that they weren't liable for the charges on that. And we would see a deficit in our comparison between what went into the system and what was billed back out. But it was actually one of the lowest periods in those 4 quarters we did analysis on.
Through the chair, back to Derek, supplemental. So wouldn't you think that that's a large variance, like an issue to have that 24 to 29%?
Through the chair, not necessarily. I think so. There's a number of different sources for what we call water loss. And it's anything from, permitted or authorized, but unmetered. And that's something like hydrant flushing. Hydrant flushing, we open up all of the system, we push that sedimenty material out, and all of that water that goes through that process is not metered. So it's authorized, but not necessarily metered. And then we have unauthorized and unmetered, which is water stealing, which can happen. We don't know of the instances that happens, but certainly does happen. And then there's unauthorized unmetered, which is leaks. So we do have every system, even if it's a brand new system, may have minor amounts of leakage, and leakage is unmetered as well. So the variance isn't surprising. We are probably one of the larger water loss percentages in sort of compared to Canada. And I think a lot of that is our unmetered and unauthorized but unmetered use, which is the hydrant flushing, for instance.
So if all that water that they were claimed leaked somewhere, that isn't showing up then in your data?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the other question I have, and I'm going back to this because I've said it before, and I have had many of these in front of me over the years, larger ones, in fact. I don't understand where the water went. Every single other case, we have found that there was a problem. The homeowner found it, we found it, there was a problem. And there was no internal leaking found. Our people were there, were there. The external leaking, there was no pooling outside. There was nothing wrong with the line from the house to our pump pipe. And so I just don't understand. And they didn't have a sump pump that was powered by water. I had asked them. And so this is where I have a real problem with just saying, you pay it. Any other one, I have said that. And we spoke previously, people have spoken previously at meetings about precedent setting shouldn't be done. It should be listed case by case. And this case, to me, is a phenomena that I'm not understanding. And it came through. They gave a very good presentation. I don't know if that meter had a gear lock. I don't even have a clue if that inside of it. I don't know anything more about those. And I know we've had it tested and I know everything's been done. But this is a house with a bathroom, one bathroom. So I see if you have 5 bathrooms and you never go to a bathroom and it's a huge house. This has one bathroom above the kitchen and it comes right down. You would hear if there was a leak. Brennan came in there and Phil, I guess, not Phil, sorry, Phil. Les Brennan came in, they had a pre-house inspection. It was all brand new. So there's where I'm having a real issue with this. I do not know why. And I don't believe, and then they put in a new meter and they've only used 51 cubic meters since February the 4th. So all of a sudden we have an issue and then we get a new meter and there's not an issue. It's not jiving to me. I know I am not a water professional, but I like to know and see if there's a result or there's a cause. And I'm not seeing one in this case. So I understand that maybe we shouldn't tell her that she doesn't have to pay the whole $5,186. But I'd like to, even if we could cut it in half or something, because I just not understanding this and no one can give me an answer. Thank you.
Derek, do you want to speak, or Mark, member Councillor Taylor has a question also?
Yeah, well, Derek's gathering his thoughts.
There you go.
From what I know about meters, water has to go through it to trigger the meter. Like it's a mechanical device, and water had to have gone through it. So I would support what the staff are recommending in the report.
Derek, do you have anything to add to this?
Thank you, through the chair. And I think just, back to the question of, where did it go? Staff really don't know that answer, but on the same token, the sewer system receives that quantity of water, or more rather. So it's not unfathomable to know, to see that it could have gone through the water system and into the sewer system virtually unchecked. And, our staff definitely did not perform a home inspection, have found any type of, or looked for any type of failure in the actual domestic home system, water system. We just know some basic facts. It went through the meter. We believe it went through the meter and was used on that property.
Just supplemental. I didn't say, I said Mr. Brennan did the home inspection. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I see Member Burkett. I just see Andrew Plunkett's hand up here for a second. And then we'll come back to you, okay?
If I can, through the chair, I have experience with a water leak myself, and aside from me hearing the water running when we came back from being away from a long weekend and a little bit of snow being melted, you would not have known where the water went. And other than that, it was a $2,200 bill for 3 days of running water. So it does add up really quickly from the very limited amount of water. And I mean, a hose produced, according to the city of Aurelia, because that's where I live, according to them, in 3 days, I used enough to fill an Olympic swimming pool.
Okay, thanks for that input. Member Burkett.
Thank you, through Madam Chair, to Mr. Burke. Mr. Burke is still here.
Yep.
Just a question, Eric. So October, November, December, at some point within those 3 months, they consumed this amount of water. So the meter was changed. So when was the meter changed? I think it was mid-February. So so the old meter that apparently was not registering properly, what were the readings? Do you have the number for the readings for January? Did it register much lower or did it register much higher? What were the readings for January, or do you have that?
Yep. So through the chair, the meters on January, actually the latest one was, let's say, around February 1st. And I believe the consumption between the one and the other was 69 cubic meters. So much lower than the 943 that was presented. And I believe actually our water meter expert there, Julie Purvis, might be able to provide that here if I just ask her real quick.
So just to further to that, Derek, supplementary to you, Madam Chair, if I may. So they said the new meter showed a much lesser reading as soon as it was installed. So what was the reading in February? But they could have used less water as well. So what was the reading for February as well?
Yeah, so through the chair, the February one, I believe, was 69 cubic meters less than or more than the previous meter read on in December. So 69 is quite low. The bill for that was only $200 for that period. And I believe that's still with the other meter in play.
Okay.
And just an additional, we looked actually the other way. So from the purchase date, the consumption between the purchase date and September 9th was the meter read. One of the meter reads was $124 of water use. So, from the time of purchasing the home to the first meter read that was on our normal cycle was about $124 worth of water consumption.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions? Seeing none, Allison, could you read the motion for me, please?
Certainly. So the motion reads that Public Works Report number W22-030 dated August 24th, 2022, with respect to 12 John Street water bill be received, and further that the disputed charges for water and sewer utility not be revoked or adjusted, and further that interest incurred during the period of disputed charges for water and wastewater utility be waived, and further that the homeowner be advised to contact staff for payment arrangements.
I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by member Stevens, second by member Taylor. All in favor? That is carried.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll move on to administration.
Thank you. This is a follow-up report from the report you received a couple months ago with respect to a proposed dark sky bylaw. Following input from council, we had a look at what the city of Orillia has, and the proposed section is included in the report. This would just require an amendment to our property standards bylaw. We would enforce it on, as with everything else under property standards, complaint basis only, and go from there.
Okay, any questions? Member Taylor?
Through the chair to Allison. So I think I like what I read there. So basically, it has to be complaint driven, and and you have 30 days to rectify the problem. Is that correct?
If the property owner doesn't appeal it to the property standards committee.
And follow up, would this, if we pass this today to be in our bylaw, then the current complaint, would it be taken under this bylaw, or you need another complaint?
So if council approves this, the amending bylaw would come to September 7th council, and then we can action it from there. We would take, provided we have a copy of the current complaint, we can action it from there and go forward from there. So
thank you.
So I've got a complaint also, so it would not come into effect until after this September.
Yeah, so we can't enforce something until the bylaw itself is amended. Right. So and then from there, bearing in mind that because we don't do after hours patrol, if the property owner that's issued the order chooses to challenge this to the property standards committee or take it further to court, this is one of those instances where the complainant may have to show up to defend their complaint because we wouldn't be the one collecting the evidence because we don't work those hours of the evening.
So if they were to take pictures and submit that to the township, is that good enough?
It'll definitely be good enough to get us going. It's all just on the flip end with any ticket or something or order we issue that if it's challenged in court, then that's different. But if they didn't challenge it, then that would be more than sufficient for us to act on.
Okay, Member Taylor.
Yeah, just through the chair to Allison, we do have a picture on file from 2,000 feet away.
Okay, so.
Okay, we have a motion then, Allison, please.
Certainly. So the motion reads that administrative report number 822-024 dated August 24th, 2022 regarding property standards dark sky lighting be received, and that the property standards bylaw be amended to include additional exterior lighting provisions, and further that the required amending bylaw be brought forward to the next council meeting.
Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Member Taylor, seconded by Member McIntyre. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so we'll go on to new business, Allison, right?
Yes.
So G1, it's something that I wanted to bring forward, and it's just a start. I don't know where we can go with it or what we can do with it, but when they're looking for more places to build and people don't want to be in 50-foot lots, and we've got farmland that is outcropping of rock and it's not tillable, that I think we should do something with this. I know there's a farmer right now that even took his planner took it to the county, and he's got a 100-acre property and they're severing off 10 acres of untillable land. I'm wondering if this isn't something that we should be working more with. There's got to be lots of farmers that have this type of thing. I know we did it. I can't talk about, well, I shouldn't bring up the name, I guess, but I know it's happened a couple of times in our township, and I speak in favor of it. So Member Burkett and then Member Cox.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. This isn't anything new. This has been ongoing my last 12 years, but what needs to happen is the Planning Act needs to change. It has nothing to do with our staff, and to ask our staff to reach out to the province. We've done it many times. Where it needs to start, I believe, is with our MPPs. They need to be engaged and they need to understand what's happening. And Minister Clark, who's in charge of this portfolio, and you know as well as I do through the MCR process that we're reviewing now at the county, we're not getting any traction. You know what happened at the last meeting? Well, we can speak to it in our updates, but without total consensus from our fellow colleagues at County Council to start this process, I can't see how we as a township can change the rules that were made by the province. So a letter to our MPPs, whether or not we get a response back, would be a first step. I feel that they need to be aware of what's happening throughout Ontario. It's not isolated to Severn by any means. Just my comments.
So just an answer to that, Member Paquette, I've only brought this forward to say, where can we start? And I think we need to start, and whether a letter to our MPPs and Minister Clark, and take it to the county and see what consensus we get there. I just think this is a good place to start, and we should instigate it. Member Cox, and then Member Taylor. Member Brennan.
Yep, through the chair. I totally agree that it is important, and over the years we've all had people come to us and ask us, and we have fought for it. And the county is another tier that doesn't allow it, besides the province above, because if it's not farmland, it's greenlands, and you can't do that on that either. So I agree that we should do something, and I think we should start with our MPP, and she may be able to help us figure out where we go from there and give us some advice.
Well, and in addition to that, I think there should be a copy sent to Minister Clark.
Oh, definitely. And then probably to the planning department at the county.
Yep. Member Taylor.
I'm just reading whoever came up with the proposed motion, I think that covers it, doesn't it? To have it go to Minister Clark, our MPP, and we should send it to the county as well. Yeah.
And I don't think it would hurt to add Premier Ford in on that list. It's just another letter. Get them out there. Let's get talking about this. Member Brennan.
He's mute.
You're still muted, Phil. You're still muted, Phil. Just if you hold your hand.
There we go.
There you are.
I thought I had it.
You got it now.
One thing in the draft letter you might want to consider, there are some larger farm organizations that take offense to the current classification schemes for class 1, class 2, class 3 agricultural land. Mm-hmm. I know of one local prominent farmer who would argue that with tile drainage, I can really alter all kinds of land to make it very productive. It's just something that you might want to anticipate in a response back from municipal affairs in talking about the term untillable. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Member Cox?
Supplemental to the CCing, in another issue that I was dealing with a resident, Brandon from Premier Ford's office says that if you CC an MPP or Premier Ford, they don't tend to read it. It has to be a direct email to each one specifically, or it's not read.
Got that, Allison?
Yes, that is the practice we do on all of our correspondence.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring this forward. When we're looking for land to build houses on and there's outcroppings of rock, I think, and like I said, we've done this in the township before, and it needs to be something brought forward. Phil Brennan has another.
Yeah, just supplement to that last comment. I'm not sure how much the Premier's office reads of things based on my experience, but I would like to, I didn't mean that to be nasty.
That's true.
I would submit to you, though, if you send it to the Premier, the common procedure is to refer it to the appropriate minister for that particular issue. So really, in all fairness, generally speaking, it starts with the appropriate minister for the issue.
Yep.
Okay, if there's no further questions, Allison, could you read your motion there, please?
Certainly. So the motion reads that, and I've slightly amended to add to the list of folks it's going to, that staff be directed to send a letter to the local MPP as well as Premier Ford, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and County Simcoe, requesting a review of the provincial policy statement PPS and places to grow a growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe be amended to allow for more lot creation outside settlement areas on lands that are demonstrated through soil and environmental site-specific studies to not be prime agricultural land and or of environmental significance, to increase housing supply and financially support farmers and rural landowners.
Okay, I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Member Cox, seconded by Member Stevens. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay.
Madam Chair, just before you proceed on,
Yes.
at the request of myself and the CEO, just to provide some clarity, if I can ask council on the John Street water billing thing, if I can ask everyone just to hold their cards up as to how they voted on that. It went fairly quickly, so.
Okay.
This was the water billing one, so just so that I can see. Thank you very much. That helps me immensely.
Okay, does anybody need a break or will we carry on?
I could use a 2-minute bio break if that would be much appreciated.
2 minutes. Okay.
That might be a little quick.
We'll give you 5, okay? I've got to be kind to you, right?
Thank you.
5. G2 verbal report, and it was the B City situation. I asked before about it, but I was just wondering if it's something like this gentleman was asking for it to go on township property. I'm wondering if it's something we could put on our website and ask individuals if they're interested to get a hold of Matt themselves. Because we cut grass and we cut ditches. And I know some people, I know there was a complaint about somebody got their front lawn cut. It really wasn't their property. It was township, and it was cut and took all their milkweed. But if Matt could contact people and ask them, not Matt, but if we were to put it on our website and say, if you're interested in being part of this, do you want to contact Matt? I don't know if Lori's on here, if this is something we can do or not.
I think we can certainly connect with Matt and see if that's something he'd be interested in, or if he prefers to just work with us.
Yeah. Any ideas, Lori?
I really don't. It's a tough one. You get half the population that wants to be bee friendly and have pollinator gardens, and you have half that want clean cut grass, and it always gets into some arguments. And then we have to consider our own property standards of cut grass. So it's not an easy one to solve for sure.
No, but so my question was, is this something that can go on our website and say, if you're interested in doing something like this with your own private property, you could contact Matt, like leave us out of it. We would just put it out there for people to choose or ignore. Is that something we can do on our website?
Yep, we could do that.
Okay, is there anybody else? Member Cox.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where you're coming from. I'm sorry. I just think that he wanted to collaborate. And I know in Coldwater, Nikki and Irene and Mike and I, not Mike, this Mike, another Mike, planted pollinators in the township gardens. And I know that Matt is already working with Pat on one at Timberline. And I know that he's working and putting some plants in up in Washago. So I think that was sort of the difference things. And because we became a bee city, I think that we have certain things, and putting it on the website is an idea too. But I also think that we should be sort of leading the pack with promoting it. If that's why we became a bee city, is to promote this to our residents and explain that, you know, this is what we all should be doing. And I would assume the biggest one is pollinators in your own gardens are the big one. And, you know, not getting plants and putting down lawn products that aren't like grass in some areas, so you don't have to mow them as much and they don't grow as high. Anyway, I just think that maybe what he's looking for, I thought from what I gathered from talking to him the other day, was that he was looking for someone like he does with Pat when he phoned her because it came to the rec committee about the garden at Timberline, and then he phoned to see if he could plant some plants along the washroom. So I just don't know if maybe it's just something like that. That seems to be all he wants to do, is just phone somebody in case he wants to do something like that with a group.
I agree with all of that. I talked to him. He wanted to come down and plant my berm because I told him that's what I was doing there. But I'm just thinking if we put it on our website, it's going to have more people contact him. And I think that's what he's trying to do, is get more pollinators. So, Lori?
I was just going to say, if he wants looking for a contact, then it's probably Pat, because she probably is doing our gardens, so we can do that. If we've already done some pollinators in one of our gardens, we could take some pictures and do some social media on that as well and connect him.
Great. And that's all I'm really asking.
Yeah.
That's all I was really asking for today.
Yeah.
So, Allison, do you have a motion, please?
Certainly. So the motion reads that the correspondence from B City be received for information, and that the B City contact information be posted on the township's website for anyone interested.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Member Taylor, second by Member Cox. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, we'll go down to G3, verbal report from Councillor Cox.
Okay. We all know about the issue on Woodrow Road. We have been hearing about the smells and the smoke and the fact that black smoke, and people are worried about the air quality. We know the Ministry of Environment has been in contact. We understood that it might be even considered a commercial furnace. The other one is that a lot of people have complained because when it blows across the highway, it's hard for people to see driving because this black smoke is there. My question is, I would just ask staff if they would look at this bylaw and report back to see if it was something that would be good for us to have for the future. I know that we have many outdoor furnaces, and this is the only one we seem to have an issue with. And I know you get black smoke because you're not burning it hot enough, but there's also a concern I had, and maybe staff can answer it in the report, is when do these furnaces, I know probably for insurance, they need to be inspected, or for their own safety, they should have the wherewithal to do it for themselves. Because if there's something wrong with the combustion in this particular one, and then on the other, Gilbert was worried too, that they were burning something with chemicals on it. So anyway, I just wanted to bring this forward because I know we've had this issue, and I would just like staff to look at the bylaw and comment back to us on it if it's something that is worthwhile or it would be compatible for us to be using.
Okay, are there any questions, or will we go with the motion? Looks like you're going with the motion, Allison.
Okay. Motion reads then that staff be directed to report back regarding an outdoor furnace bylaw based on the Township of Romero's current bylaw.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Member Cox, second by Member Taylor. All in favor? And that's carried. G4, verbal report, Member Cox.
Okay. Mr. Burke and I have had correspondence from Denise Neer on Foxmead Road. The gravel trucks are running on Foxmead, and especially ever since we put the no heavy trucks on Division Road. I see them. That road also has issues that it's falling apart. And now we've got these trucks going up and down. And the one day I was behind one, and in the 60 where the curve goes, I couldn't even keep up with him. I was doing 80 and he was way ahead of me. I was trying to see how fast he was going. So I would like a report done on this. And I don't know if we can, I don't know how we're going to fix this problem. I do know that we do have haul routes. And I was very interested when Inspector Yateman said, this is something that maybe can be put on GPSs so we can say to these truck drivers, that's not a haul route. And I know if you have to deliver something somewhere, I don't have a problem with it. But they're running these other roads now as shortcuts, and we know they're going all over. So I don't know if we do the GPS and get it changed, or we start just saying no heavy trucks on other roads. I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know what the proper way would be to deal with it, but I would like Mr. Burke to either comment or come back with some ideas in a report. Is it back to that quarry again, and it's the same quarry? I don't know that it's been happening in other areas, but I do know that my residents are saying that they're tired of these trucks, and they're not. And it's the fact is, it's not only that they're on the road and ruining the road, it's the fact that they're speeding.
Like to answer that, Derek?
Through the chair, we can certainly, report back on Foxmead Road and we fine for infraction and so on and so forth. But just on the GPS, so we certainly have endeavored to look at that before. And Google Maps, which is probably the country's leading provider of GPS onboard navigation, if you will, that and the other one is Waze, I believe. They don't actually offer a program that's specific for truckers. Like you aren't able to sort of say, I'm a commercial vehicle and I need a specific route. It's just not a function that currently exists with them. And so I think that's going to be a limited success there. It's more about, once again, talking to the owner operators, talking to the quarry about where they're dispatching and controlling and using enforcement tools similar to the other quarries like Nelson's and so on and so forth, or Walker's as well.
Just supplemental, Eric, the ones that the biggest ones I've seen are Diva Gordon.
Fair enough.
Okay. Member Burkett, you have a question?
You're mute.
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair. We know that they're using Foxmead Road as an alternate haul route. Why are we wasting staff's time to come back with a report? Why don't we just put a no truck haul route along that road, just to stop them? They're using Warminster Side Road as well. So they're traveling any which way they can. And how do you say that name? Sorry, that is those blue trucks. Well, yeah, yes, like this lady, whoever runs it, did give me a call, and I tried to explain to her that, you know what, they need to adhere to the haul route. That's why we have a haul route, Burnside to the highway. So they're taking it upon themselves to travel. I can see Madam CEO doesn't like my suggestion. Go ahead, Madam CEO.
When you're done, we'll go to Lori. Okay.
I'm done.
Yeah. Okay, Lori?
What, did my facial expression give it away? Just because I put my hand up doesn't mean I didn't like your idea. No, I was just going to suggest when we did Division Road, before we did Division Road, the clerk and the director of Public Works were doing sort of a township wide of which roads we should restrict. So I was just going to suggest, rather than pick and choose again, because sometimes we're getting some unintended consequences, that they go back to doing a comprehensive report, which might take a little bit longer, but then at least it'll be planned better and less unintended consequences. So it wasn't that I didn't like your idea, Your Worship. I was just focusing it a bit.
Thank you.
Are you done, Member Catlin? Did you?
Yes, that Mayor or Member.
That's okay. Chair.
Madam Chair, thank you.
Member Taylor.
Yeah, through the chair, I agree with what the CAO is saying. Rather than, because if we ban them on certain roads, they're going to go somewhere else. It's just, so let's do it, take our time and map it out correctly, and hopefully get a handle on it.
Thank you.
So,
yes,
sorry.
Member Cat.
Madam Chair. So, is there any way that Derek could reach out to the quarry and explain to them that these guys are using Foxmead, and council now is looking at banning that route? Maybe that would deter some of them. I don't know, but I'm happy that your suggestion to bring back that report is great. But I'm curious now if Derek has a rapport with someone there to explain to them that this group of trucks are using that route, and council's considering putting an old truck haul route on that section as well.
But they're on town line too. Like they're just cutting in and going wherever they can get there the fastest. And okay, Derek, if you can answer the question.
Yep. So through the chair, we do have good rapport with actually all of the quarry operators that we have in Severn. Kind of have to. They're one of our major road users as well. And so we'll send a letter from staff, not just kind of advising of some of the conditions that we're seeing. Certainly can note that truck restrictions like Division Road are not off the table, but we're looking for compliance, and we're looking for their help in compliance with that. We generally know that there's Nelson's anyway, that there's a powerful demand to go towards Highway 12. And that's what's causing the Warminster Side Road and the Foxmead use and stuff like that. Our transportation master plan group is intimately aware of that as well. And, that's something that ultimately one of those 4 concession that goes that direction will one day probably need to be a truck route. It's just picking which one. So there's lots of things on the table. Yes, we'll put together a letter and just advise of our concerns and see if we can get some immediate correction of that routing while we work on a more permanent solution.
Thank you. Member Cox, you had another question?
Yeah, through the chair to Mr. Burke. Thank you, Mr. Burke. That sounds absolutely great. And I guess this does very much tie in with our master transportation plan. So that will help also. So thank you again.
Okay, if there's no further questions, we could have a motion. Allison, please.
Certainly. So the motion will read that the correspondence regarding tractor trailers and dump trucks from the quarry on Foxmead Road be received, and that staff report back following review of the township speed limit bylaw and traffic control.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Member Cox, seconded by Member Stevens. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay. Verbal report from Mayor Burkett, West Canal Road.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. So for the benefit of our new member of council and a refresher for the other members of council, this is not a new request to this council. So, Mr. Henderson, and just to give a quick bit of history for everyone, I don't know, I forget the length of the road. Anyways, the first section of the road, there was history to that road to the point where I received a threatening call to back off when I started to ask questions as to what happened. Anyways, the first section of road is an unassumed road allowance that belongs to the township of Severn. In the middle of this road, there's 200 meters that belongs to Mr. Henderson. When you carry on further, the next section of road, and I did ask how it ever became part of an unassumed road allowance and now belongs to the township of Severn. It has. I guess when they were developing those lands years ago, instead of cash, no, I'm assuming that's what happened, and that's what I asked, and that's what I was told. The road was conveyed as an unassumed road to the township of Severn. No maintenance, no nothing, as the first section was when it was conveyed. I think it was in the previous term of council. Council was good enough to do a bit of maintenance on that first section, so they get a bit of gravel and they get some grader work only when they send an email to the Director of Public Works. So fast forward to this section in the middle. Insurance is becoming tougher and tougher for this gentleman to receive, and I think it would be beneficial if we just assumed that section of road as an unassumed road allowance, and it would become no different than the other two parcels that are at the beginning and at the end. And of course, every dollar that would have to be spent to survey, to convey, and whatever legal fees would be assumed by Mr. Henderson, there would be no cost to the residents of the township of Severn. And further, an understanding that this road would never be a road that would be serviced or maintained by the township of Severn. It'd be no different than all of the other roads that we have that are within this, well, not all the roads, but over 150 roads that are an unassumed road allowance that is owned by the township of Severn.
Member Cox?
I can agree with that. I totally agree. It's calmed down. It's all changed. It should be that way. That road used to run in front. That's how it became unassumed. And then when they switched the road, that's where we got in the mess. And I agree that this gentleman probably has had just about enough and it's too expensive. And if anything ever happened, he could lose everything he owns. So I totally agree that if it's all right, if the Director of Public Works and staff have no issues with it, I don't either.
Member McIntyre and then Member Taylor.
Through the chair, I've had multiple discussions with Mr. Henderson and his wife Sue and other members of the other residents along the roadway. We really have got responsibility here, I think, for this Mr. Henderson. He's got a liability that he can't get to the other end of the road, which we own, without going over his part of it. His insurance is becoming prohibitive. He's ready to donate the road to us, and we're not asking to change anything. It'll be an unassumed road from beginning to end. And his thoughts are to make it better for him because his insurance is becoming untenable. So he's going to bear the costs of any kind of surveys and so on. I don't know how it's going to affect the people who have used a portion of the road allowance. Some of them have paved to the road from in their driveways, but if he's gifting that to us, I think it's the way to go in this case.
Okay, so Member Taylor, Allison had her hand up there. Could we go to her first and then come back?
Yep.
We have to be kind to her today.
I can wait for Member Taylor. It's fine.
Okay, Member Taylor, you go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair, I respect what the three people have said there, but very cautious on be careful what you get given to you. We should do our due diligence from the township's point of view, and I'd like to hear what Allison and Derek says before we jump into this thing. In case we've missed something here, we want to make sure we're not on the hook for something we've unforeseen, I guess.
Okay, is it Allison or Katie? Who do I take first here? Between you two.
I'll jump in. So a couple things. One, at this point, because of the lame duck provisions, council actually can't direct us to go ahead and acquire land at this point. Council doesn't have that authority right now because the council is lame duck, but they can direct us to just sort of start the work and invest in exploratory pieces with the property owner and report back. There are a couple pieces to this that staff would need to let council know about before I think council be in a position to fully endorse it, with respect to costs, planning implications for the abutting properties, the property owned by the gentleman himself, all that type of stuff. So perhaps the motion is just that we work with the property owner and report back. And then depending on where we are, then council can give us a direction with some more information.
Okay, thanks for that information. Katie, would you like to add to that, please?
Thank you for that. I just wanted to point out that there are some planning applications. I think our clerk just spoke to that as well. I believe in my time here, I've spoken to this gentleman as well about this type of process and about how this would enable him to have another building lot should the township take this piece of road allowance. So I think that's probably something that should be considered here. Typically, the township doesn't take land in order to facilitate someone gaining a building lot. So I think attention should especially be paid to that. It is on a shoreline property, and as we all know, sitting around this table here, at least those have been in council for a long time, we don't typically encourage or support backlot development within the shoreline area, and that's essentially what this would be creating. So I would encourage council to allow staff to look at all aspects of this proposal from every department, rather just from the road side of things. Perhaps a rezoning on the parcel to not allow a dwelling to be built on it or something to that extent, considering it would be a separately conveyable parcel with a residential zoning if council were only to take that piece of property and not address the planning issues.
Thanks for that information. I heard a couple of people talk about insurance. Can anybody tell me what all this insurance is about?
I can tell you. Sure.
Okay, Member Cat.
Through you, Madam Chair, the insurance is because the roadway belongs to Mr. Henderson. So as part of his home policy, he now has to add a rider to it to allow the other residents to pass through his property. So should something happen on that 200 meters, it needs to be covered. So he just adds it, no different than what you have in, I assume, what you have on your road. It's a similar type, I think.
So, and that was what I wanted to know, because I have a rider on my insurance and it doesn't cost me anything at all. It's part of my house insurance. It doesn't cost me a penny more. So I wanted to know where all this insurance money was being paid. Katie?
Supplementary, Madam Chair, I can't answer that. I can only address the fact that Mr. Henderson, and it may be because of the number of homes that are further on, the amount of traffic that he sees past his home, because I think there's almost 30 homes that will be going past his house or using his road on a daily basis. And if they're going out 2 or 3 times a day, I can only assume, and I don't know which insurance company he's with. Every insurance company is different and will ask for different fees.
Yeah, that's just what I couldn't understand about this insurance. So thanks for, well, I don't think there was an answer there, but anyway, Katie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't specifically speak to the costs associated with the insurance, but I would like to point out to council that this is not a unique situation. It may be unique in that the fact that the township owns part of this private road. However, I would like to remind council that there are lots of private roads in the township, as you all know, and most of those are owned by private individuals. So perhaps this gentleman needs to speak to other private individuals in the township who also own portions of road. For example, there's lots of residents at the end of East Shore Road who travel over many, many private properties in order to get to their property. So certainly that private road on private lands is not unique in this township. And I think if there was a large insurance issue at play here, we'd be hearing from a lot of residents, not just one. I do agree that this is a different situation as the township owns another part of this private road. However, in all our years doing right-of-way applications over private lands to service, the traditional cottage country areas of this township, not once has someone talked to me about the insurance except for this gentleman. So I would be curious why that's not coming up on all of these other applications we deal with for private right-of-ways, where it is people in lots of situations, many people. If we look up near Torpet Road in that end of the township, or the East Shore Road portion of the township, there are certainly many roads that have lots of neighbors who cross over private lands in order to get to their property. And like I said, never once has insurance come up during all those consent applications with Committee of Adjustment or building permits that we see come through here where it involves private property. So again, not that I'm saying this is a bad idea necessarily. I just wanted to clarify that this is a situation occurring lots of other places in the township. And, there may be some other interested folks watching this who also would love the township to take ownership of their private road property.
Yeah, there's 159 private roads in their township. Just so you know. Okay, Member Burkett.
Thank you, through Madam Chair. So thank you, Katie. But how many actually are unique? This one's very unique because at either end, you have a township unassumed road allowance, and then the section in between is a private road. So I don't know of any others. This is very unique, unless you can. Well, anyways, it doesn't matter. I'm going to report come back, which I'm happy to read.
Okay, Allison.
Yeah, so I was just going to give council the draft motion, which is kind of let staff come back to you with more information on all the pieces that would be involved in this. So, which is about as far as council can take it at this point, given our lame duck status.
Okay, so do you want to read it again, or will we just go?
Sure, I'll read it out for you since I don't think I've actually read it out completely. So the motion would read that staff be directed to work with the property owner regarding the transfer of the 200-meter parcel of West Canal Road and report back as necessary.
Thank you. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Member McIntyre, second by Member Cox. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so are we going to go back now, Allison, to the ones that were pulled?
Yes.
D23?
Yes.
Who pulled that?
I believe that was Councillor Cox that pulled D2.3. That's the Scarlet Drive road allowance clearing.
Okay, Member Cox. You're muted, eh?
I just wanted to speak to this because I understand how this Deborah feels. She's right. We have the monarch butterfly now on the endangered species list. We have other animals and insects that are, anyway, the whole bottom line is, and pollinators and bees, we need to, I like her idea of maybe there might be a sign, and I don't know that we should be providing signs for people, but the SSEA may, or the Bee City people may, or someone may, but I think we should be encouraging people to do these types of things and not always have it cut. And it's interesting because this lady's complaining that she got hers cut, and I have many complaining that theirs hasn't been cut. So anyway, bottom line is, I agree that I think we should just maybe take it as information, but I think if there's anything that any staff member may know, and I'm sort of looking towards Tracy, that if there's any way we could lead her to somewhere, or someone who may have something that could help with this issue, like a sign or something that people could put up to say that this is what they want in front of their house, and that's fine.
So other townships have done this also. People have put up their own signs to say no cut, whatever.
Yeah.
So I know staff aren't going to like the, okay, lift your blade, put your blade back down, but I don't think there's going to be that many of them. Is it something that we could use as a pilot project, Derek, if you're still here?
Well, supplemental, sorry, to Derek. I don't think it would be that hard, because if one person's just got a sign, don't think, then they just lift the little blade and off they go, because that's what they do anyway. If there's a post in the way or a stop sign or something.
So, sorry, through the chair. So we do roadside grass mowing is a multifaceted thing, right? We have contracted service, we have internal staff, and then we have actually just private citizens who are also providing mowing of their own front grass and that sort of thing. So definitely lots of sources of why a road allowance gets cut. Generally speaking, our purpose is for sightlines. Vegetative control is, really to kind of reclaim. If you think even 50 years down the road of lack of maintenance, your right-of-ways would be very narrow. They'd be covered in brush, and they would not have all of the drying out and drainage and all the things that we want for a roadway. That being said, we already specifically target some species. So for instance, with the invasive species list, we've trained our staff and we've trained our contractors and made a condition of contract to avoid cutting some of the invasive species to limit the spread of seed. And then we go and hit that with our recent hogweed program. So there's an example where we have differentiated between one species and the next. It is terribly tough in practice, right? In practice, these are tractors with side mount flails that are going down the road and doing some lawn cutting, and finding those areas is difficult. So I guess I just caution on the actual ability to process a request like this, where we don't mow certain areas and mow other areas on a case-by-case basis.
Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair, back to Derek. Derek, I was just suggesting that if I wanted this in front of my house and I made my own sign and stuck it up, I'm sure they'd see it and they just go by. I don't think we want to have a policy. I don't want this township to do anything. I just think that if people are this concerned and this is something they want to do, then we should respect that. As long as it's not bothering the sightlines. In this case, I know it probably isn't. That's all.
Okay, Derek is gone. If there's no further questions, we'll get Allison to read a motion.
Certainly. The motion reads that correspondence from 3356 Scarlet Drive, road allowance clearing, be received for information.
Okay, moved by, Member Cox has a question.
Yeah. Allison, do you think you could put something to Ms. Rabbit that we did discuss this, and if she is interested in putting up her own sign to show that this is what she wants there, that she could? Or is
absolutely, I can include that in my response.
Yeah, people mind. Like I just don't want to think, yeah, we blew her off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone who submits a letter that goes to council gets a letter back one way or the other. So yeah. We can
thank you very much.
Okay, and move into seconder, please. Moved by Member Cox, seconded by Member McIntyre. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so we'll go to D24, and I think Member Taylor pulled that.
Yes, thank you to the chair. Yeah, I heard on media a few weeks ago, and then we heard it loud and clear at AMO, the proposed Strong Mayors Building Homes Act, and I sure don't like the sound of it. And to me, it's not democratic. And I'm hoping that the committee here will agree with me that we send a message back to the Minister Clark that we don't like it. And so I had a tentative motion saying Severn Township believes in the principle of a simple majority of council should be the deciding role. And I can't see making it any more complicated than that. It doesn't sound democratic what they're trying to do, and I don't like the sounds of it. But I'm anxious to hear what staff and our committee thinks about it as well.
Member Cox and Member Brennan after that.
I do totally agree with what Councillor Taylor's saying. And I like the motion, but I also want to say that, putting power in one person's hand is not going to help solve building homes. The red tape is what the provincial government's doing. And this is not going, like, just because you're going to give more power to a mayor and then 3 people have to say this and then they're all going to fight. This is not doing anything. A mayor can be a NIMBY. They may not want to have that in the backyard of somebody who's prominent and speaks in their ear. So I like your motion, and I just wish that staff might add a little bit more to explain that this is not going to help build homes. It's like, I can't even figure out how they even dreamt it would. And as you say, Member Taylor, when we were at AMO, it was dead silence. Nobody was in favor of that. It was, and they tried it again when Mr. Clark spoke, and nobody made a move on it either. So I just wondered if there was a little bit more we could put in about the fact that we really believe that that's not going to help us build more houses. Thank you.
Hey, Member Brennan.
Yes, I also agree with Councillor Taylor. This is totally undemocratic approach to our democracy. If you look at the need for environmental impact studies and so forth, this circumvents the basic premise that you do your studies before you do your investing. And this 2/3 thing. So if you're going to initiate staff time and work to do a project that all of a sudden you have to have 2/3 to stop, and at the end of the day you stop it, you've wasted really scarce staff resources for something that was a bad idea to begin with. Good projects will proceed through the process if they're properly handled. It's the same thing as MZOs. They are a horrible, horrible approach to trying to make things better. So I agree fully with Mr. Taylor, and also the comment that they want to examine the opportunities to expand this to other municipal jurisdictions is disturbing at best.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more with Member Taylor, and it has to go through a planning process. And what happens if you get a bad mayor, or what happens if you get a mayor on the take? It's just not right. Why have council if you're going to give all the power to a mayor? I think a letter needs to go back ASAP. And like we were saying, when they mentioned that at AMO, there was not one clap in the room. And I just think we all need to stand up and get a letter back to him as soon as possible. CAO.
Thank you. I also agree with everything that's been said. I wonder, though, if council would give us some time to bring a broader motion back in future, because it's not only, it's much more comprehensive than just the mayor decides. The mayor also has the power to hire and fire the CAO, to hire and fire department heads, to reorganize departments, to bring his own budget forward. Like, it's quite comprehensive. So I think we probably need a comprehensive response back. And I've seen a couple of good ones. AMCTO has done a very good one, and OMA has done a good one. I'm sure lots of municipalities are working on one. So I just want to make sure we cover all the things that we object to in it.
Can't agree more. It's putting a lot of pressure on a mayor too. Like, do they need all that extra pressure on them? Member Taylor, and then Member Brennan.
Yeah, through the chair to Lori. I'm just afraid how much time will be got, because they're thinking of passing this thing in November, right? So that's why I thought we'd get onto it quick, but I'd like to hear your comment on that.
That's absolutely true. I'm looking at the calendar. We should be able to put something on council September 7th. And in all honesty, it's got first and second reading. The chances of them dialing it back are probably slim anyways, but we will do our work on it, but we won't take too much time. I'm not sure we're ready today, because it's not, I think we need to be a bit broader.
They need pressure put on them.
They do.
Yeah, I agree exactly what Lori's saying. If we can see it in September, that'd be great.
Member Brennan, did you have another comment?
Yes, I want to also follow up on Lori's comments there. The comprehensive response is definitely the way to go. And yeah, the details that she's pointed out, they're quite disturbing, really, when you think about the implications of this kind of ad hoc power. So the comprehensive answer, especially if it's part of a coordinated response, be it AMO or at least a larger jurisdictional response, or at least contains the wording of a larger jurisdictional response, would be the way to go. If we miss the deadline, I mean, the deadline's there so we do miss it. But that doesn't mean we can't say this is a horrible way to run our municipalities.
Thank you.
And it can be changed.
If there's no further questions, we'll get Allison's motion.
So based on the discussions, what I've done, bear with me, Councillor Taylor, who had the one-line motion to start with. Is that the correspondence from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing re Strong Mayor's Building Homes Act be received, and that staff be directed to bring forward a comprehensive motion in response for council's consideration to the September 7th council meeting.
Thank you. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by member Taylor, second by member Stevens. All in favor? And that is carried. So now we will go down to, let me go back down here. Committee member updates. And we'll start with Ward 1.
Okay, thank you. To the chair, just a couple of things to mention. Matchedash Community Heritage Center, St. John's Cemetery Service was going to be rained out, but they moved it to the hall and had the service in the hall, and just another good thing to have in the community. So it worked out very, very well. And just to let everyone know, the cemetery is 2 miles away, but they moved to the Matchedash Hall and all went well. The Coyer Mill, busy summer for the mill, and just one event that happens every Saturday night is Saturday Night Live, and it's going very well there as well. Seg Bay, we attended the golf tournament just last Thursday. We had great weather. Sorry, Councillor McIntyre couldn't attend, but our township was well represented by Mayor Burkett, Deputy Mayor Dunlop, Councillor Cox, and especially along with staff, Andrew Plunkett, Steve Leatherdale, Adam McEachern, and Katie Manderville. And I'll provide dollars raised at the end of September. So I think we commented that the township looked great having staff and council there. It looked really good. So something to think about maybe next year as well. And most of us, with the exception of Councillor McIntyre, unfortunately with COVID-19, we attended AMO, some excellent sessions there. And I want to give kudos to Lori for keeping us all on track with our packages and everything else. So thank you.
Okay, any questions for member Taylor? Okay, moving along to Ward 2.
Most of my meetings for my committees they didn't have any meetings in July. We did do a Rediscover Cold Water on July 16th or 15th, and it was a new promotion we put out. We had nonprofit organizations set up tables. We had some music, and it turned out very well. And the fire department came, which thank you very much. And a lot of the organizations were quite happy, signed up some new members. People were out and about and really enjoyed it. The next big one we had in Coldwater was Steampunk. It was well attended. There were lots of people. A lot of the businesses did very well that day. And I have to commend Susie Burtonshire because she basically sets that up and applies for all those grants. This may be the last year of Steampunk. It is getting to the point where it's sort of not old hat, but people are tired and people have done enough with Steampunk. There's a new cosplay and a couple of other things that they may. The BIA is looking at other different ones we could do in the summer. We've talked about a food event. We talked about definitely a Harry Potter event because that was on the Friday night and it would do so well. It did very, very well that day. We also had brought back the brochure for the house tours in Coldwater. Margie Fisher brought that forward and the BIA paid for them. And Margie and I went out and spoke at the Canadiana on the homes that we had on it and a little history on each one, because that seems to be a new thing and that people, not a new thing, it is a thing that people like to go for walks and check out old architecture and homes. So that's fine. Oh, and I did have fun at the golf tournament too. That was very good. And AMO.
Okay, moving across to Ward 3. Phil, do you have something to add?
Yeah, just briefly, while not overwhelming, the number one issue that comes my way directly these days is still short-term rentals. Not overwhelming, but consistent. Followed, maybe not followed. It's a close tie with road safety issues again, and particularly in the Marchmount area. And I know a lot of these things are being handled both by the mayor and the deputy mayor. There's a few of them I'm on my own for, so I thanks for all the help I get on those. Big Chief Road seems to have quieted down, but council can expect some submissions next month with regard to suggested alternate names. I also am still waiting for the full resumption of the Otis Park Committee that I'll be sitting on, and the Physician Recruitment Committee. I fully expect that that'll probably happen in September. And I also, too, like Councillor Taylor, want to thank staff for the marvelous organizational job they did for AMO. They made it an even better experience than I thought it would be. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Member Stevens, could you have some committee updates? And you're on mute, okay? Ron, just hold your space bar down. You're on mute. There you go.
Yes. In Ward 4, we're in somewhat of a limbo in the fact that the COVID situation is still hanging over our heads, and the fact that we have 3 plans of subdivision right now totaling over 300 homes that are still sitting still. And it's we also had the recreational project in that area as well that was going to provide additional help to the development of everything, and it's stopped right now too. So until we get straightened around and Queen's Park starts sending out these dollars that they were sending out before, we need to get it back. And it's as simple as it's dollars to dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Member McIntyre.
Hello, yes. We have the auction from the Art Club of the boards that are on Muskoka Street coming on the 27th Saturday. I'd like to see a nice turnout from the group here to support the Washago Art Club. The Cogeco are moving quickly through the area of where I live, particularly off of Canal Road, and they've done over on Severn Street, and they're moving along pretty rapidly. So that's in the offing, I think, early fall. And we would like to attempt to revive the Christmas parade in Washago. I know that Judith has volunteered to jump in to see if there was anything she could do to connect with some of the organizers from the past. And anybody else on this committee, I would welcome to attend and to assist. Otherwise, Ward 5 is going along pretty good. Thank you to the world for the acclamation. I know that Mark and Phil feel the same. There's nothing I can do taking my signs back, I guess. I paid my money for the signs. So in any case, what's pressing would be the auction on Saturday. So I'd like to see a turnout from our council if possible. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Member Burkett, could.
Thank you through Madam Chair. So yes, thank you, Lori and your team for all your help in organizing us through AMO. It was a good conference. A little disappointed in the both presentations we had with the ministers. Didn't hear anything positive. A little disappointed in the internet service. We were told we were going to hear this big announcement, and I'm still waiting. I'm not going to hold my breath. As you all know, no announcement as yet. Sorry. Maybe we'll hear it shortly, but still haven't heard anything. Down at the county, I want to say this MCR review, we did try to at least not have a vote on it or prolong it until the new council was in effect, and we tried once and failed. I think there was only 12 of us that voted in favor of holding it up, and I even asked the question to the planner there, what was the hurry? Really didn't get a constructive answer, and then we tried it as a recorded vote and we lost again. I just feel that the MCR process that Hempson is doing for the county needs to go hand in hand with the heritage mapping, but we passed one part of it, and the heritage mapping, of course, will come next year, as they stated. Those are my comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member Burkett. So I sit on the library board. We didn't meet through July or August, but we have hired a new librarian. She, her husband is the Presbyterian Church minister, and he seems to be making a difference in Coldwater, and we were so happy to have her come aboard. She used to work at the University of Toronto Library, so there wasn't a lot of reviews she had to have. She was right on the job right off. Our librarian had to have operation on her eye. So the new girl, Lois, just took right over, and that was encouraging to have somebody like that on staff now. The BIA, we talked about events coming forward, decorating for Christmas, the Witches Walk. Also, just a reminder to them that it was time to get our budgets together, September meeting, and then we have to have them in by October. So we talked about an AGM to come forward also, and everything's moving forward great on those. The County Council, Member Burkett spoke about that MCR. I also voted against pushing it through so quick, and they said, no, let's get the first part through and then we'll work on the second. We couldn't understand why we couldn't work on it all at once and put it through, but it was recorded vote and we were voted down. AMO, the one session that I attended I found really interesting was the CAA. They also do bicycles now. So if you're out on the trail and you have a problem and you can't get home, you can get a hold of them and they'll come pick you up at the next concession. So that was something new that I didn't know existed. And it goes along with your CAA membership. So I don't know. I know we can't promote one business on our website, but maybe CAA needs to do more than just through their magazine. We're already a member when we get that. It's for new members. So I found that really interesting. Oh, I guess that's it. So the next up would be Laurie Kennard with her update.
Thank you. Just a heads up for council, we're going to keep you very, very busy in the next couple of months. We're trying to get the rec master plan, the transportation master plan, and the OP all before you before this term of council ends. So look forward to some heavier meetings coming up. We've been pretty short in the summer, which is nice, but you've got a few things, big things that I know you want to accomplish before this term ends. So we are working hard to make that happen for you.
Thank you for that. So we have no closed session. Oh, Member Briquette.
Thank you, through Madam Chair. This may not be the appropriate time, but to Madam CAO, as this term of council is coming to an end, is there an appetite that we get some sort of photo of us? Is that something we can do, or is that something we need to talk about later?
I'm sure Allison's still here. Allison and I have been kicking this around for quite some time because we're not sure what official photo. This is the first time that this has happened to me, that we have two new members. So is the official photo for the term the first of the term, the end of the term? Do we need to? And I don't know that we've come to a conclusion between us. So for sure, council can weigh in on it, I guess.
Anybody's thoughts?
Is this an opportunity, Madam Chair, that we or Madam Clerk, that we are able to speak to it, or no?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Member Cox.
Well, I totally believe that the two gentlemen who have been on council should actually be in a picture on the wall, because it's perpetuity and they are on it. So my only one was, maybe we could take a picture of all of us, and I don't know if you have to replace the old one, or can we kind of cut Sarah and put her so she's there so we know she was there? I don't know. Like, do we leave the original one up and add one in, or I don't know.
And there's
from if I can, from someone who's been through a couple replacements midterm or right at the start of the term with Tay, one thing we did is we did do a full second photo, and we just updated the banner underneath so that it would show that, you know, these members were on from this date to this date and these members were on from this date to this date. And then we just moved the original, I'm going to say start of term photo down the wall. We put the newer one up where the other one is. So at the end of the day, there were a couple times we ended up with two council photos for one term, but it was a way of making sure we had the members all up there. From a timing perspective, given that both members are acclaimed to the next council, perhaps an idea so that we're not bringing a photographer in twice is that we could take a photo of, it sounds weird to say, but a photo of the outgoing council at right before the same day, but just earlier in the day of the inaugural of the new council, so that we're not bringing a photographer in twice. But we can figure that out. We can give a couple photographers a call.
Okay. Did you remember Taylor?
Yeah, I think my idea, I think Allison said it too, but I think all of, even the two different councils should be acknowledged. Like there was the first one, and then so if there's two for this term, that's the way it just, let's be transparent and open. There was two in the beginning and another two at the end. So we should have two different photos.
Yep. Yeah. I agree with that. And it sounds like Allison's got a handle on that. So we'll leave that to her. That's not a motion. Okay, we have no closed session. So we are open for adjournment. I need a motion.
Simple motion that this meeting be and is for now adjourned at 11:14 a.m.
Okay, moved by Member Brennan, second by Member Burkett. All in favor. Have a good day and nice to see you doing so well, Jim.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate it immensely.